Have y'all ever heard of Amon Carter? Amon Carter is somebody who kind of pioneered a new era of development in Fort Worth. Arguably, throughout history, there's not one person who by himself changed the course of a city's development more than him. Amon Carter helped bring a lot of businesses here. He donated a lot to the city's programs. He also helped either directly donate or bring money in to help build a lot of different buildings and structures in the city. So in this video, I'll be talking about Amon Carter's legacy. I'll be talking about who he was in his professional life and how we can incorporate some of those aspects into our own lives.
Thank you, far too kind. Can I get an encore? Do you want more? Cook and roll with the Brooklyn boys. So for one last time, I need y'all to roll. Now what the hell are you waiting for? After me, there should be no more. So for one last time, nigga, make some noise.
So for one, you have to be a visionary. Fort Worth started off as this place where a lot of ranchers would bring in their cattle. It was a successful place for meatpacking businesses because there was a lot of cattle here. However, whenever Amon Carter first came here, he saw a lot more for the city. And so anytime anybody wanted to bring in their business here, he would hold a private banquet for them. And he would try to convince them as much as possible to come here. He was also really interested in aviation. He was fascinated by airplanes. One of the things he did is he built 2 airways here, which led to the government wanting to train pilots here for World War I. He also convinced American Airlines, before it was American Airlines, to come here to move its headquarters from Dallas to Fort Worth, as he saw it was a city that could compete with Dallas if given the time. And whenever I was here at TCU, I noticed that during Latinx Heritage Month, there wasn't a lot of big cultural displays, cultural showcases, and that's one of the things I wanted to do. I wanted to put on a big show that would make people who are Latino to feel pride in being here and feel comfortable being here, but also just bring in people from outside the culture to appreciate a night of us sharing our traditions and values. And so that was one thing I did for 2 years. I choreographed dances, I talked to a lot of different people to bring in funding for the events. I was meeting with a lot of different performers and persuading them to come and be a part of the show. And even though at the time it might have seemed like something crazy, just like Amon, he wasn't afraid to envision bigger, impressive things for Fort Worth, even though a lot of people in the town probably at the time thought he was insane. And I also have big dreams for my city. One of the really big things I want to do is bring biotech here. You know, I studied biochemistry in college, and currently I'm still doing biochemical research. And one of my dreams is to bring biotech here so that people who are interested in it can have somewhere where they can work if they want to stay in the city. And you know, your dreams won't always lead you to the place you want to be at. For example, Amon Carter always envisioned Fort Worth being a port. He always wanted to expand the Trinity River, the river that wraps around Fort Worth and Dallas. He always envisioned kind of serve as a way to import and export goods. And he really thought Fort Worth would become an industrial center similar to Pittsburgh, similar to Cleveland because of that. And although that never came into fruition, there's a lot of Trinity River organizations that kind of carry on that legacy of caring about the river because of him. And so yeah, I really want to dream big for my city, dream big for myself, regardless of what others may think. We can also strive to be diligent, just like Carter. Carter was a really successful businessman. He was always willing to experiment and dive into different ventures. When Carter first came to Fort Worth, he was initially working for the Fort Worth Star. However, he was willing to convince a lot of his friends to donate to him so that he could buy the Telegram. So then he merged the Fort Worth Star and the Telegram to become a really big and successful newspaper in Fort Worth. He then proceeded to establish Fort Worth's first radio, and because of that, he had a really large sphere of influence. However, despite all the work he had been putting in, he still hadn't accrued any wealth. That would come later whenever he discovered oil on his properties, and after that, he worked really hard to just drill a bunch of oils in different parts of Texas and New Mexico, and he finally hit oil again in New Mexico, and that's where a lot of his wealth came from. And I feel like in our lives, sometimes we get discouraged or unmotivated if we are putting a lot of effort and time into something and it's not giving us what we need or what we want. But like Carter, he was just always willing to try and always willing to do everything he could to attain success. For me in my life right now, I'm a little bit discouraged because I really would have wanted to be in graduate school by now. But I know that I have to keep on putting the effort, and I know that I am. You know, and throughout college, I was doing a couple experiments every week. This whole year, I've been working in a lab and learning a lot of the essential skills that are required to be a researcher. And I know that if I just keep at it, eventually I'll be successful and I'll get into one of the programs that I want to get into. It's a very delayed gratification because I'm putting in a lot of work and I'm not necessarily seeing the result that I want just yet. But like Carter, we need to keep on drilling everywhere, and eventually we'll strike oil. And Carter was also charitable. Even when he didn't have much, his secretary would always say, Carter always gives even when he has nothing to give. However, when he did attain that wealth, he started the Carter Foundation, and that foundation established the Amon Carter Art Museum, which is a art museum here in Fort Worth that is really nice. It has a lot of American art, and it contains a lot of his personal collection. Even after he was gone, his legacy lived on because the foundation still continued to donate. They donated money for the construction of the convention. They also helped build different structures in downtown, such as the downtown water gardens. A fun fact about those water gardens is that Kendrick, he filmed a video in '95, and you can see him just walking around the water gardens. And yeah, Carter was just known as a philanthropist. He came from nothing, so whenever he did attain that wealth, he never forgot his humble beginnings. And because of that, he donated to a lot of programs throughout the city. I mean, my mom literally went to a high school that's named right after him because he donated money for the renovations of the high school. She went to Amon Carter Riverside High School. And in my own life, I don't have a lot of monetary things to give out, but I like to be charitable with my time. Throughout college, I volunteered as a Spanish translator at a local clinic, and it was always great to have conversations with the people that were coming there, and they would always tell me how they felt a lot more comfortable being able to speak their own language, and they really felt like they were understood. And then this summer, I'm going to a summer STEM program to teach high school students. I participated in this program for 3 summers, and I really felt like the teachers there cared a lot and were very passionate about the subjects they taught. And that's what I also want to provide for the students there. And then just looking like super far beyond, one of the biggest goals I have in my life is to come back to Fort Worth and to teach high school chemistry or biology once I'm retired. And I specifically want to do it in East Fort Worth. And these schools aren't always funded well, and because of that, they don't always have the best programs, not a wide variety in coursework. There's oftentimes a lack of teachers there. So I would love to be able to just be there, to be a mentor, and to help any interested students realize their passion for science. So yeah, I think those 3 aspects that Carter really portrayed throughout his life are things that are really important and something that we could incorporate into our own lives. And I aspire to do that throughout my life and throughout my career. If you stayed into the end of the video, I really appreciate you. Thanks for watching. I hope you're all still stacking wins, and I'll catch you in the next one.
Who you know fresher than whole? Riddle me that. The rest of y'all know where I'm lyrically at. Can't none of y'all mirror me back. Yeah, hear me rap.